Hey, what's up, guys? Lucas Burnley here. You're listening to the Edge and Flow podcast. I'm sitting down with my co-host TJ Schwartz, and we basically just recorded an entire podcast, like before we
Yeah.
started recording. But
Yep.
still got stuff to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah, definitely. We always do.
Sweet.
Sometimes we go into it thinking like, what if we don't have anything to talk about? And then the hour flies by. Seems
That's
like
true.
how it goes.
There's some of the best ones.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
What do you want? We want to start with shop updates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You start.
I gotta reiterate that the weekly rhythm we've established is winning big. It's like it's changed everything. It's amazing.
Okay.
Because basically what I can do is I ship today every Thursday. At the end of the week, we kind of like compile the week's effort into a ship day.
Okay.
So Dalton's assembling and I'm shipping. And I now have the ability to look at, so when I do all the shipping, I click create manifest, which prints out like a barcode that tells me the number of international and domestic labels that were printed that day. So I get like a paper that's like, you shipped this many knives this week. And if I have that every Thursday as like a snapshot of what our productivity is, it's a constant reminder of like what the health of our production output is. In the past, we would build up efforts over weeks and weeks to ship in like a flurry of like a full few days.
Yeah.
But that gives you no indication of the rhythm. And it's like I've said before, you have to amortize that over a period of time. And it's like, do I amortize that to the last time we shipped? But last time we shipped, we'd already started on that. It gets confusing. But today was a very big connection point for me of realizing like this is the new main metric of like, if we can keep this number in the healthy range that this manifest says every week, then we know it's working. And then I can sleep better at night. You know what I mean?
So you're shipping one time per week.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to compare that to what we're doing right now because it's 180 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So we are shipping every day.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that we're shipping every day is because our schedule right now, specifically Maddie's schedule, is so variable with so many potential reasons to not be able to complete a task on a given date. Okay. Which is what we were running into. We were shipping like 2 days a week. And what we were finding is a lot of times something would come up and a day would get missed.
Mm-hmm.
If a day or two gets missed, that really starts to stack. Yeah. So like today, Winston's got the flu. So Maddie's not in work, but she shipped yesterday and she'll ship tomorrow theoretically.
Yeah.
It's small, right? So, a lot of times it's 3 to 4 packages. The wild card is when we do our drops, we might be shipping 150 packages.
A surge, yeah.
Yeah. And so there's kind of like a bleed off where some days she can't ship everything in that day. But we've just found that like from a consistency level, it has started to like move the needle towards just like, okay, 3 packages came in overnight. They don't build up. They're out the next morning. Customers are happy.
Yeah.
You guys are in a position right now where you have less of those setbacks and you're able to like truly plan around like this as a percentage of the week. That's pretty good.
Right. Well, and the big thing is, like I said, every single knife basically up to now has been built to order.
Right.
So the things that we're shipping on a given Thursday are not the orders from that week. They're the orders from between 2 and 5 weeks ago. So we're like trailing, you know what I mean? And that's like the way it's designed. So like while he's working on sheaths that week, he's not working on that week's delivery sheaths. He's working on the previous week's. So he's building 1 week behind and he's assembling and shipping 1 week ahead. You know what I mean? So it's like I couldn't ship any, like there's literally nothing that could ship. Like I could try to dig for something to ship and there's nothing until the assembly day where he assembles and then I can ship.
Right. But you're you're not in that process, assembly day. How far is assembly day generally from shipping day?
Same day.
So you're assembling and shipping same day.
Yeah.
That's pretty
And the reason
interesting.
for that is we don't have enough places to put the assembled knives. So we
Totally.
literally have to get them out of here.
Okay, two thoughts. One, there's the episode name right there is rhythm, because
Mhm.
I have a feeling this is going to be a
Yep.
reoccurring theme
Yep. This is
today.
this is a this is a prelude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the rhythm thing is really coming into the forefront. Like if you look at it around money, like the idea of like aging your money where you're not like, so money comes in, you're not spending the money that just came in, you're spending the money from last month.
Mhm.
Product is obviously different. And if you're running like something closer to lean, like you're not sitting on inventory, I'm thinking about this like more in relation, like how does this tie in? So for me, doing a knife show, I have to build product and I have to have like a little bit of a buffer between when I finish and the show.
Mhm.
Your process right now is so efficient. You're able to streamline it in a way where that window is like much smaller. So you can't sit on your show inventory because you don't have space, and you're used to finishing X amount of product at a time. So you're slipping that show production in
Mhm.
and finishing closer to the show, but with less stress. Does that track?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the one show we did is that we literally just took the stuff that we were building as if in parts and just put the
Right.
parts in a box. So we never did the assembly part at all because they were built to order
And
at
you
the
did
show.
assembly at the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. So
Just super interesting.
it wasn't, it was like the nothing changed. It was just that like we lost a week of production filling orders and
Right.
diverted it to the show, but did the
And
same
diverted it to the
exact
show.
thing.
Dude, that is such an outlier at small scale. Like still custom, like you right now are a two-man shop.
Mhm.
Okay. I feel like big shops might hit that kind of efficiency sometimes, or like the ideal is like they go pull the product off the shelf and like, load it up and it's waiting in Atlanta for them.
Mhm.
I don't know any makers really, even efficient makers, that hit that kind of flow.
Mm.
I'm
The
just trying to
process
think
is the
about it.
product.
Yeah, just it shows again, like, well, the process. One thing it shows is that you can't compare your results to someone else's process.
Yeah,
There are
exactly.
too many variables.
Yeah. Yeah, when you say that, the thing is like we're a manufacturer, not like a custom shop. So it's like I don't know who to compare us to, but like a true custom maker, it's not a real direct comparison, but I
You
don't
know what's
really know.
crazy is you exist in gray space for me. Exactly like Chris Reeves. Like no one is going to argue that Chris Reeves is a manufacturer, but in my brain, my like knife loving, multiple decades in the industry, when I look at one of their knives, I still see custom.
Mhm.
Okay? That's how yours are. I've tried to figure this out for a long time because it's like there's like it's like an umami thing.
Yeah.
There's something about the way that the product is made, finished, and presented
Mhm.
that to me is dictating, like in my mind, what I think is custom. It's really strange because I know it's not. I think it's like not accurate,
Right.
but it's how I feel. Rockstead is another one where like every time I touch something Rockstead make, I'm just like, oh, that's a really nice custom knife.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
it's not. It's a production.
Yep. Yeah. That it gets so muddy. Yeah. But yeah, it's going smooth. Um feel strong right now. Little hiccups here and there, but it's an endless list of those things to handle, which is good. That's how
It's
it goes.
good.
Uh yeah, shop updates for you. You been in the shop or still on the design trend?
Oh my God, I'm trying to break out of design. And I am full, full hyper focus, cannot break out of it. I mean, I don't, it's like, it's so hard. It's so hard to explain. I think like when I know my brain when it latches onto something, like how easy things become, how, like on the opposite side, how hard it is to get it to do anything that it is not prioritizing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like sneaky. It will waste. I've been trying to get into the shop this week. We did a raffle inside the Facebook group at the end of the last year for Bo's school. Did we talk about this at all?
Maybe. Keep going.
I'm gonna like drop it just because. It was a last second decision. There was a fundraiser at Bo's school. It was kind of underfunded. They weren't close to meeting their goal. I was like, okay, I'm going to do a raffle inside the Facebook group. Basically $10 entries. I gave people like the ability, like the winners get to like pick a custom side pop. Did 10 grand in 24 hours.
Nice.
Low like stakes. It was really great. People had a good time. Everybody like felt good about it. Dude, finishing those pops is actually, it's been super hard. Creating the space to work on them. It's like not where my brain is at. Today and yesterday were the first days where I really was like, I blocked out time and just like forced myself to do it. But outside of that, it's like sneaky brain. Like I'll go down to the shop and then I'll be like, oh man, I forgot to like reprint that button for the printer. Oh, I better go do that. And then I like go do that. I'm up near my sketching desk. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that. And you saw the results of what that was today because I like basically engineered a new product in that time.
Yeah.
Which if my brain was not wanting to do that would take me a year. I don't understand. It's wild to me.
Yeah.
Long answer to a short question. I am still fully in design mode. Switching. I made like a mistake in my scheduling, which was I brought back in daily sketching, but I put it at the front of my day. And what I realized is that is like setting me up like
Sucks
15.
You,
you see it, right?
Yeah.
15 minutes of like freeform sketching is basically informing my brain, I think, of like what creative fun we're going to have today.
Yeah.
And it's done.
Yeah.
There's 6 hours in CAD.
You enter the whirlpool. Yeah.
You're in the whirlpool.
Yeah.
So I flipped it. So like basically starting today, it's just, I'm back in like 5 o'clock in the morning. I go in and I do shop work. That's it. No drawing, no CAD. And that I think will give me a little bit of a buffer. So we've got that going on. And then right now in the effort to create rhythm for the first time ever, I'm trying to plan my year out in kind of quarters. Specifically around like apparel drops. I love doing apparel. It's not incredibly like cost efficient or in like revenue efficient, right? It doesn't make crazy money and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
But I love the process of like working with the designer, like figuring out what we're going to do, picking blanks, like all those conversations. And so the way that we scheduled it for this year is we're just going to do capsules. First quarter right now is we're working on one we're calling the Cozy Collection. And it's super basic. I'm doing a knit cap, a crew neck sweater, and a pair of sweatpants.
Nice.
Super fun. It feels good to be able to like tie it into itself. And then what I'm finding is like going through the work of doing this first one, I've got 2 more already like planned inside of the year that I'm just things that I've wanted to do but didn't have the reason for. So that's kind of what's going on in the shop right now. It's a lot of head work.
Yeah, you're on pretty heavy design and manager schedule.
Design, we haven't talked about that like maker manager.
Yeah.
We should like recap that at some point because I actually kind of fell off of it as I've moved into other ways of like managing my time. And I wonder if going back to that and like just reviewing it where the tie-ins are.
Yeah.
You know? Also wonder, do you does the time of year like affect like the type of output you have?
As far as volume or
No,
like the
like
form of the
seasonal.
output?
It's like it's New Year in a way. I think I don't know. Like just thinking back over the years, like I don't know if like in the new year I'm very excited and like so my brain is kind of scattered and like
Mhm.
playing with all kinds of different concepts before it really like, oh, this is the focus for this year. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question about season out. Honestly, not. I don't think the seasonality really comes into my brain, but that does lead to a point that I was going to talk about once we get there.
Get
Um,
there.
I think I want to create a seasonality by design,
Okay.
kind of like kind of like classic Schwartz style, I guess. Like plan it out a little bit because what's I think it's I've been reading and reacting on across the board,
Okay.
building the business so far, and the weekly rhythm that we came up with is going against that. It's not whack-a-mole anymore. It's a rhythm that is literally on the wall on a piece of paper. This is what each day is for, and it unlocks so much potential. And I think I need the same exact thing from a yearly standpoint. So there's landmarks in the year that I think should be associated with doing a certain thing. For example, I think it's wise both from a time of year and demand standpoint and from a like PR standpoint to launch a new product before Blade Show in Atlanta. Um, so I don't know if that'll happen this year because it's coming, but things like that, I think I need to start establishing some deadlines for product releases is the main thing I'm focused on. Because
Right.
here's what I've discovered. I've really only been like full production for 2 years now. Um, and both times what happened was the summer months are slowdowns for internet sales
Yeah.
inescapably, like
Everybody. Yeah.
big fact, right? Like it is what it is. So what happens is both years in the summer, I'm like, okay, now's the time to start working on the next model to like reinforce sales to get back to where we were. Well, that model starts this creative energy starts to become real going into Q4. And then the models we already have start selling much faster. And the new models came in right at like the wrong time to start to now compete with the models that were there before. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And it 2 times in a row, I made that mistake of like reacting to the summer slowdown with product development. That takes time. The products come out into late Q3 or into Q4, and it's the wrong way to do it. The right way is to time the product releases so that they come out in the apparent slowdown that's on the horizon. You know what I mean? Because it's like you can't with a product development R&D cycle, you can't be reactive. You have
Right.
to be a little bit more proactive on a timeline than that. Um, and so the LT5 that I'm working on is actually coincidentally going to line up like pretty good. But that's only because it took longer than the other models because of the way that it's being changed. So just luckily, because it's taken longer, it's going to land in a better time of year. But like for example, the Turn and the Confidant both launched like going into Q4, like starting
Mm-hmm.
to push on it. And it's like it became hard to focus on it because there's this groundswell of Q4 sales on all the other models that become
Right.
so they appear like they might become unmanageable like both years, and it becomes like that's the only thing you can think about, and it's like that should not occur, like, you know what I mean? So I'm starting to think of a rhythm of like timing our efforts with the seasonality of like what how the public operates. And all the big businesses do it. You know, you got the car dealerships doing their rebates.
Totally.
You
And
got,
this is scale.
yeah,
This is a difference between manufacturing mindset and
hmm,
custom mindset.
yeah,
I can build any weird thing I want anytime and
yeah,
someone's going to be excited about it,
yeah,
right? As a business scales, like I would make the argument that like even in like my low output kind of custom flow right now, I would benefit from manufacturer's mindset. Where that is coming into play for me is around the product that can be made efficiently. So like talking about apparel, like
Mhm.
I can plan that. And the most direct version is I don't want to release a sweatshirt in July,
Yeah.
but I've done that kind of stuff
Mhm.
just because I'm like, oh yeah, like we're finishing this and like, oh, I forgot to get
Yeah.
back to the printer and like now we have a hoodie and it's August.
Yeah. Yeah.
On a larger scale, from a sales and marketing standpoint. Well, and like this is interesting too, because like it starts to open up different questions as far as like, well, if you're ahead enough to plan for this product, you're at a release date, you're also ahead enough to plan for marketing that product.
Yeah. Yeah.
Strategy, like you're bringing it
Yeah.
now, you have a tool that you can be strategic with instead of, like you said, reactive.
Yep. Yep. So the reactivity it has been squashed out of the manufacturing cycle
Right.
for the most part, but the reactivity on a yearly schedule is absolutely still there. So that's another thing for 2024. And like right now, last year, I'm coming out of Q4 sales feeling good, and the only focus I have is getting caught up on delivering those orders.
Mm-hmm.
And then that starts to slow down and you have this really rapid rate of production. And like the summers weren't like devastating, but it's like all of a sudden you kind of realize like, dang, we're gonna be either overproducing or we're gonna have free time on our hands accidentally or something like come like
Mm-hmm.
June time. And that's where like the Overland Sport, I spun that up like quick. I mean, I think from concept to launching it was like less than a month, and that was a reactive thing. And it was like to compress it that much is not ideal. You know what I mean? So it's like I need to be thinking about June right now.
There's another element of flow that you may be working past, and this is one that I'm fully struggling with, or Maddie and I are struggling with, which is like integrating family flow into workflow. I don't think about things like summer break or Christmas break when
Hmm.
I'm planning or doing the very little planning that I'm doing. When I'm like, oh, there's a show coming, I've never looked and been like, oh, but like spring break is right here. So that's going to automatically mean I get 75% less done for this week and a half.
Hmm. Hmm.
Do you look at family structure in this rhythm? Or are you guys, is because you are fully in the business and Becca is fully at home right now? Is there enough separation?
Well, right now there is no like landmarks in that way because the kids aren't in school or
Aren't in
preschool or
school.
nothing. So
Right.
there really isn't. There's like, yeah, on our anniversary, we'll probably take some couple days off. Yeah,
Right.
Christmas is going to blow out a week. Like that always exists, but it's like I kind of just work my 4 days a week, like year round. Like I don't really
Right.
do anything different, you know? So yeah, I haven't, but when the kids are in school, you're right. That's going to be a little
I guess
different
it's
dynamic.
something to like think about because you're not far away from it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that like, a week for Christmas was, I think the kids were out of school for 17 days.
Mhm.
That's actually time that you have to plan for.
Yeah.
If in our case, like working together, because someone always having to be with the
Right.
kids.
Right.
And so then you get into like these areas where you're like, oh, well, do you get help? Or like, do you do these things? And you're like,
Right.
your situation may just be different enough that it's not as
Yeah.
critical. But I just always wonder, like, I think that that has been one of my fears about growing the business and having employees is like for so long I was building for flexibility. I'm like, I
Mhm.
want to make a living like someone who is working a 50-hour a week job, but I want all the flexibility.
Mhm.
And you it worked through my 30s, and then as kids started to come in, you just realize like, well, yeah, that's great that you can, cut out and, split for a month. But like now the kids can't because they have
Yeah.
classes, they have schools, they
Yeah.
have their rhythm. And so it's kind of like, I feel like at this point right now, I'm reassessing like what rhythm actually means
Hmm.
and keep coming back to the idea that like there is freedom in structure.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
Yeah,
everything
I was
has
gonna
to be
say that.
structured.
Yeah. Yeah, I quote my dad pretty frequently. He says it all the time. He's like, the I think the way he mainly puts it is like creativity thrives in structure, not chaos. And it's not
Right.
just creativity, it's pretty much everything. And it is counterintuitive. Like, cause I gotta say, like, that mindset of like the ultimate flexibility is like the goal. And I think I arrived on the conclusion like about 3 or 4 years ago that I was like, that is a trap that I fell into,
Yeah.
that was a good goal, because in the chaos of the flexibility, you actually betray the flexibility. You know what I mean?
100%. I actually, and I've come to that same conclusion, I guess like multiple times because the thing is I like to work.
Mhm.
So even looking at like like financial, podcasts around like, fire, like the financial independence, retire early stuff. It's been fun seeing those because now 10 years later, a lot of those people are like returning to work because
Mhm.
they're retired and they're 40 and they're bored.
Yeah.
And I realized I was like, yeah, I don't need that. Like I'm not looking for ultimate flexibility, but I also don't know, I haven't figured out like what the next step of the rhythm is,
Mhm.
And I think it's probably creating enough space in the year that it feels like you're getting the recharges like I used to get from just being able to be very flexible and make like
Mhm.
a last second decision to take a trip.
Mhm.
That part is gone. But like at the same time, I could very easily be like, all right, I'm going to go do Blade Show in Atlanta and then I'm going to take 2 weeks with the family and we're going to go here
Yeah. Yeah.
and structure that and like not feel it on a financial level because it's planned for.
Mhm.
But we're probably still in kind of a limbo state where we're not quite there.
Yeah.
So it's like I'll do the show, I'll come home stressed. We don't have like a plan to
Yeah.
deal with that.
Mhm.
That with the coach that I work with, like we talk a lot about like pre-coping, which is like if you have something like super stressful coming up, it's like you're like filling your tanks before you go into that situation.
Yeah.
Um, and so at this point, that's kind of like I think around product releases, I'm trying to do it because I get emotionally or I get like creatively charged, and then it's like the fuse blows. So it's like get super worked up, do the thing, do the drop.
Mhm.
It's a problem if I just stack them
Yeah.
versus like I know I have to do this once this quarter, and I'm actually doing it for next quarter.
Mhm.
So the stakes are low, and I have time to like look at it, with some like objectivity
Mhm.
before it happens. And I don't know, it's interesting
Yeah.
just from like what rhythm in a business means and how it changes over time and like what the levers are that change it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think, the structure that I've tried to implement is, it's paid the biggest dividends of anything I've done. I think it's probably the single biggest pivot that I did mentally is to abandon the like dream that I had. And that sounds negative, but it's like
No, I see where you're at.
the goal of the dream is still what I'm pursuing,
Yeah.
but the route is like totally different. It's not what I thought. And so like, cause in college, I was like a pencil artist doing a lot of drawing. The first summer after my freshman year, I took the whole summer to like draw and basically sell drawings for the whole summer. And I was like, yeah, it's gonna be so much more flexible. It's summer break. I did quite a bit of drawing, but it was like, it felt weird. I felt anxious the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like I didn't really have a schedule, and it kind of bled over because I never ever had a real job after that. Like that just continued for years of
Mm-hmm.
like just creative endeavor, like just kind of all over the place, every direction, and like midnight hours, and then take a Monday off, and then like work the weekend, and it kind of sucked. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't fun. You know what I mean? Even though you would think that that level of freedom is like the ideal goal. Uh, yeah, didn't really work out for me.
Structured freedom.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I don't know. Well, I think we're seeing some effects of like some of the schedule changes already this year, and I'm seeing it just in myself,
Hmm.
which is really nice. The biggest thing that I'm trying to do is create enough kind of like resiliency that when something does come up, like it doesn't derail the overall plan. Or like if it does derail it, it's like there's some like redundancy in place. So like,
Hmm.
I get sick or something, can't work for a week, and then the kid gets
Hmm.
sick and can't, and I'm at home with the kid because Maddie's out of town, something, whatever,
Yeah.
like theoretical, situation. I
Yeah.
think just trying to like build in for that. And that just really means like not being reactive. You're
Hmm.
ahead enough.
Yeah.
Like obviously at some point any plan will break down, but there's a margin like where, I mean, show prep, if you're finishing the night before the show starts, like there's a lot that can go wrong.
Hmm.
If you're finishing 2 weeks before a show, that's like very, very different metric of like not only what can go wrong, but like
Yeah.
what you have the ability to correct.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious. That's the goal
Yeah.
for this year for me.
Rhythm. Yeah.
Rhythm.
Yeah.
We should say
Good
it some
stuff.
more times.
Yeah.
Rhythm.
Oh, we got a headline news art thing that we have on our
Oh,
list here.
yeah, let's dig it.
Yeah. So as you guys know, I have had a Sile X7 for about 18 months. It's just ticked over 500 spindle hours, which is not a ton, but it has been flawless. And I've been converting kind of to a fanboy a little bit, and someone else converted to a fanboy. Take it?
Yeah. Well, you sold me on it
Not you.
initially.
I was talking about the other guy.
Oh, yeah. No. I'm going to like
Okay.
go into it.
Okay.
Okay. That is like the very different level. Okay.
Hmm.
So you sold me on it originally. I I am kind of a Haas fanboy, right? And it's because it's the same reason I like Apple, right? And in
Hmm.
a way, it's like everything included, good user
Yeah.
experience. Apple truck can show, or, Haas truck can show
Yeah.
up with all the parts on it.
Yeah.
And I'm not incredibly like DIY tech savvy. Like I learn the things I need to use the machine, but I realize I need support.
Yeah.
So I have been like on the fence, right? And kind of like back and forth while
Yeah.
realizing like the ultimate value is like indisputable. It is an insane value for what a machine it is.
Right.
Um, but now I get to be kind of a fanboy of two things because so Titan Gilroy, who is Titans of CNC,
Hmm.
who we have talked about for Fusion 360 content,
Cam. Yeah.
right? Cam, they are now the new Sile distributor in the
For the
US.
for the US. Yeah.
That is huge. What would you make a quick comparison? Like what brands would that be outside on the spot?
What brands like make a
Yeah, like if
parallel?
two brands were to tie together like that, what would be comparable?
It's like We Knife in 2015 getting a tight relationship with Blade HQ,
Sure. Just major where you're
which
like
they did,
it's
and we've
well
seen
and
it.
there's another level with this because one, Titans of CNC create a ton of content.
Hmm.
Okay. So Sile is they're a Chinese company, right?
Yep.
Okay. There was not like not language barrier, but like information barrier, and then
Yeah.
like a broker here, kind of, and like there's like it felt like very early days where you're having
Yeah.
to like figure out your own solutions to
Yeah.
to industrial problems.
It was like the very first little wave landed on the shore of these machines that were
Yeah.
like that just not really anybody had seen before, and so
Yeah.
there is like the earliest just people starting to hear about them over the
Yeah.
last like 24 months. Yeah.
Right. And I think like for me, like inside like the Sile Facebook group, it almost sometimes it almost felt like these would be the guys who were building their own CNCs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they are comfortable with having this be a project.
Yeah. Problem solving.
I was not.
Mhm.
Titans coming in, I think completely changes that as a deciding factor. I'm very curious.
Yeah, that duo, I was before I even had the Sile like on my floor, I felt like this is a disruptor
Yeah.
that's like coming.
Yeah.
This is like the move that needed to happen to like
Yeah.
cement that,
Yeah.
and I think it just did. And I think that a revolution is going to happen. I really do. Like it's going to be different in the
It
next 5
feels
years.
so you felt like not to keep banging on this drum, like you felt about Sile like I felt about Fusion 360, which was it's a market disruptor because
Yeah.
for everybody that's using like old pirated cam or like hacked together things,
Yeah.
Fusion comes out and it's like, oh man, everybody can afford it. It's super functional. Titan has had their like relationship with Fusion for so long. This feels like that because I think
Yeah.
they saw the exact same thing, which
Yeah.
was, oh, people just need to learn this.
Yeah.
The Sile almost feels like the perfect tie-in
Yeah.
to that. So now you're like, you have Fusion at an incredibly reasonable, like whatever, $300 a year. And now you have what 5 years ago was probably an $80,000 CNC machine
Mhm.
for 40,000.
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty big upset.
Yeah, it's going to be let me preface this. I have been around Haas machines. I have not owned one, and I have not personally run one. I've been pretty close in that I've designed a lot of parts that have been made on them, and I've watched the parts run, had many conversations with people that own them. You compared like Haas to Apple.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference, and this is going to borderline controversial, but
Mm.
Apple is really a high quality product. Really high quality.
I get it.
I don't like that comparison because Haas has the same business model as Apple,
Right.
but I think their execution is not nearly as good. You know what I mean?
Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt your thought.
I was just gonna say like the concept, like I'll just say flat out, like I think Sile machines are better
Yes.
in like almost every way.
Yes.
And so that's the hard part for me is I want what's better. And
Yes.
I'll like go out and buy some weird random thing no one's ever heard of because I know it's better.
Right.
Maybe it's a nerd thing, but now I think with Titan, a lot more people are going to find out that it is better quickly.
I think, and better, you are looking at a very specific version of better, or like what you are prioritizing is specific to you and some other people.
I guess what I mean is like the machine,
Right.
like not the periphery, like the machine.
Totally. Right.
Yeah.
So trying to think, like worked in a machine shop. They had Haas, they had Mazak, they had Star, like screw machines. They had Haas mill. The machinist there, some of those, it's so funny, like looking back on it now, because like they were young guys, like going through CNC school then.
Mhm.
CNC school had Haas, and then some of those guys then went and like worked at Sandia National Labs, and like there was Haas machines in there. And basically, over the years with machinists, I've known two groups. I've known guys that like Haas and people who are like, they're absolute trash. Like buy a Herco or whatever it is, right? Like for me, when I went to buy a machine, I don't know why, but Haas was like just the 100% right fit.
Yeah. No, totally.
Now, as I'm like learning more machining and like seeing the areas where there can be improvement, I'm understanding it more.
So,
right.
you asked earlier about a brand comparison. People
Yeah.
are nervous about this. I get it. Like, we're talking about market disruptions.
Yeah.
There's the whole nationality thing, whatever. Here's a comparison. In the was the late 70s, there was, the American auto manufacturing world. And guess who came along? The Japanese with Toyota, Honda, Subaru, and they bullied the American like industrial manufacturing plants like for what, 20, 30 up to now in many ways. But the American automotive industry had to adapt to
Right.
a different force of competition that had a very different idea of how things should be done. Guess who benefited from that? The customer.
Yep.
And I think that the automobiles we drive today are better, even the American
Yep.
ones by a mile because of
Yeah.
that. So that's the stance I'm taking is we are now going to see a company like Haas
Yeah.
react to this. And they haven't probably really had to yet. They may be watching this, but I think they will have to react to this. And I think it will be good.
Specifically around Titan. Like,
Yeah.
because I mean, kind of the name is like very descriptive.
Yeah.
Like that, the visibility,
Hmm.
that right there is an issue. So, okay,
Yeah.
here's a forecast then. How long does it take for Haas to react? Do you actually think that they will, or are they of a size where they're like, that's not a threat. We have our base.
Um, it's going to take, I mean, it's really hard to predict something like this, but I mean, we're looking at it like a couple decades, I think, of like a
Back and
battle.
forth.
Yeah, of a battle. I don't, who knows exactly what that looks like, but it's like I compare it to the auto industry because it is
Yeah.
very similar.
Yeah.
It was like a decade of Japanese cars just absolutely disrupting. You know what I mean? Like totally
Yeah.
running all over the place. And then there was like a pushback, and then it started to balance. It could be. I mean, could be talking about decades here. I don't know. I really have no idea. I'm just saying right now,
Yeah.
there's this thing that's coming that is, I think, better, and
Yeah.
that's going to change everything. It just is.
Well, and again, like better is relative,
Hmm.
but depending, like based around the product any given you is making, like
Hmm.
I look at it now and the siles are a better fit in my shop for the products that I'm making. And the fact
Hmm.
that I can stack 2X5 side by side in the same footprint, but be like under the price of
Yeah.
one like office or even like super mini,
Yeah.
that's a major factor.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
again, I think as you around folders, I would like more tool holders, right? So I have a 10
Hmm.
tool changer. Folders max that out,
Yeah.
right? It would be great to have more. Seeing the efficiency of which you're doing some things really shows the inefficiencies of having a single spindle.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, if I'm going to move some of my production over to this methodology, all of a sudden now this is the weak link.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Too few tools, like RPM relative,
Yeah.
big footprint. And it's like, I keep coming back to it because I'm like, well, do I stay with Haas? And then it's like, can I afford to do with Haas what I need to do in the moment? And like, kind of the answer is no.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
The X9 is, I've talked about it before. It kind of has my attention. They haven't actually landed any. They just have.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen all the pictures of all the castings, which are they're made. The castings are made in Switzerland,
Right. The
and
Meonite, right?
so what's that?
Meonite castings. Is that what
They're
they're called?
epoxy granite, they call it,
Right.
or
Okay.
mineral. Yeah. So those are being completed right now for the X9. It looks kind of like a direct competitor to the VF2,
Yeah.
whereas the X7 that I have is more of a direct competitor to like the Mini Mill.
The mini. And then the
Um,
X5 is closer
is like
to
it's smaller than
like an
really anything.
like an O. Well, I feel like it's bigger. It's around the same size as like the OM.
Oh, is it? I
I
haven't looked at that
think.
one very much. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the X9, I think, is the like dark horse right here. That
Okay.
is like probably the because the X7 is too small for most machine shops. We have
Right.
the benefit of making knives that are
Right.
small, but it's too small for almost anybody. So the not the VF2SS has proven to be like the right size for like a huge percentage. It's Haas's
Right.
number one
Yeah,
selling
whether you're going to
machine.
have one machine and you're in your
Yeah,
garage, or you're
it's
going to be like starting to go into production.
yeah, it's the F-150 of CNC
Yeah,
machines. I've said it
great
a million
comparison.
times. And the X9 is like the Tundra. It's like,
Ooh,
here's the thing: a VF2 weighs about 6,800 pounds and has a similar size in terms of the work envelope as the X9. So the 6,800 pounds VF2, the X9 is almost 14,000 pounds. And
whoa.
it's a mineral casting, and per pound, mineral is about 10 times more rigid than iron and like vibration dampening.
Yeah,
So it's orders of magnitude more dampening and twice the weight
right.
and faster and about 40% less money. Yeah.
That's it right there. When you start to do like the cross comparison, you're like
Yeah.
more accurate. I'm probably an outlier still, because I realize like at this point the accuracy of the Haas is like fine for what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also realize like where there are maybe limitations.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have the skill to at this point to fully capitalize on it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Even from like a fixturing standpoint, I mean, it's like everything kind of rolls downstream.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to buy, it's like, yeah, of course you want more machine than you need. And there are areas where the more may come in something that's not like directly necessary right now, but like speed, cost, like that, all of that starts to be pretty important.
Right.
How many tools is the X9?
I actually don't know. I've only kind of
Can I just look it
superficially
up? I'm going
looked
to
at
look it
it.
up right now just because
Yeah.
I'm the
I
ADD.
want to say that a lot of them have multiple tool changer
Okay.
offerings. I think it's like 24 on the like initial package that they're bringing.
See, yeah. So the Style X9 right now, they're saying from 51,000.
Yeah, 51 grand starting.
Jeez. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I won't like dive into that too much, but like, is that your next machine?
It's like it's so hard to not go that route. You know what I mean? Like
But why
it's
would you go a different route? Because what are your
um
options?
basically I need a 40 taper machine or
Yep.
bigger, minimum 40 taper.
Yep.
And so option one that I thought about a while back was like a Okuma
Sure.
used, because that's, king. Like
How
if
old? How many years old?
10 years, 15
Okay.
years, like an older one, because I'm trying to bevel grind with it. So
Yep.
I don't necessarily need like a mint one, like brand
Yeah.
new for that purpose, but or VF2 is the obvious 40 taper choice
Yep.
from a Haas standpoint. They do 40 taper on the smaller machines, but I would rather go up.
Yep.
And then the X9, and like, dude, the X9, it just, holy cow, there's nothing physical about the machine that makes you question, stop and think.
Right.
It's just the fact that it's new
It's all thought
and that
out.
it's
Yeah.
not domestic, if that's
Yeah.
a huge critical point. You know what I mean? But like, it just doesn't leave anything on the table. It's all there.
I think like I'm such a creature of habit, and I'm always hesitant about like my own skill set and my ability to learn things. And so like,
Mhm.
I'm like, well, I've had this Haas for, 10 years and I know how the
Yeah.
control works mostly. And
Mhm.
like just the idea of switching to a different control, that's terrifying to me.
Yeah.
Um, I think at this point, like it's not, I know enough, but this plays in huge too, which is when I bought Haas, my friend Pat Pruitt had a Haas who was teaching me
Yeah.
machining.
Yeah.
You have a style.
Mhm.
Like, so you start to get into this system of like buying machines that people who own, where you have like a network of problem
Mhm.
solving, is like incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, one more note, and then we can go on to go on to the next thing. But the other thing is what is that thing coming with option wise? So
Right.
uh, high speed machining and like
Yeah.
smoothing is just in that control. You
Yeah.
have to pay like $2,500 on a Haas to get that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Haas, you pay for everything.
yeah, through spindle coolant on a Haas, I want to say is like 8 grand to go from the base spindle up to through spindle coolant.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 8 grand additionally. I got a quote on an X9, and I think I don't want to say it for sure, but it was like 2 grand or something.
Right.
So it's like as you climb, those options are like also like a
Pretty
tiny
reasonable.
fraction. So the climbing of the price of the machine when spec'd out is way slower, is like even more affordable as you start to get into a higher spec machine.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the base price, the gap is not massive, but if you look at like a mid to high range machine in terms of options, the gap becomes almost like 2x when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's just where I'm at, is like a near fully spec'd X9, you're pushing 60K,
Right.
whereas that same spec Haas you're pushing 95,
In 95.
and it's like
So in there, there's like a few things that come into play too, which is like, it'll be interesting to see kind of like where financing falls for
right,
Sile. Because
yeah,
Haas is like Harley,
yeah,
basically. Like
yeah,
you
yeah.
walk in, and you're like, I want a bike. And they're like, okay,
We'll
like,
get you a bike.
we'll get you a bike. It's no problem.
Yeah,
Which one do you
you
want?
want
Like,
some black leather too?
yeah, yeah. You want
Yeah,
some boots? Like,
yep,
here's your bandana.
yep,
Haas will give you a loan.
yep.
And they have the nice thing about Haas, or one of the nice things about Haas, is like you look and you're like, oh, seasonal. You're like, man, I can save 20% on a machine. So
Mhm.
there are times when you can do that and save money and like get good deals. And like, again, parts availability, support. Like,
Mhm.
in Bend, we don't have a Haas tech, but
Mhm.
there's a Haas tech in Portland that drives to Bend on a regular basis. And I can
Mhm.
piggyback onto a bigger company and get to see that Haas tech if I need
Yeah.
to. That's not
Yeah.
going to happen with Sile,
Yep.
right?
Correct.
But I've had Haas techs come to my shop probably twice in 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those, you know, a risk that like, where are you prioritizing this based in reality?
Yeah. And
Other,
also,
go ahead.
let's say you bump your spindle hard.
Yeah.
You goofed the spindle. Like
Yeah.
you can things buzzing, How much does a spindle cost for a Haas, and how
Right.
much does it cost? So there's the benefit of you can hire a tech to do it on a Haas.
Right.
The con is it's going to cost 400 or 500% what it
Right.
would cost to buy that part and install it yourself. So yeah, you're putting your man hours in, you're going to have to get your thinking cap on, you're going to have to make phone calls,
Right.
but the
But
savings is like astronomical. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah, man, bankroll really plays into a lot. Like you and I have talked about Kaiser compressors enough, and like Kaiser really is a business that is used to dealing with bigger businesses.
Yeah.
Um, this second round of them, like, yeah, the tech will come out and he'll like work on it, but you just see like the cost of the machines and kind of the way that the support works is geared towards like, oh, how many of these do you have on the floor?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even their manuals and stuff. It's like, here's for your, plant engineer.
Yeah.
Your facility engineer is going to
Yeah.
read this manual, and then like this is the one that you handle like the operator. It's like different.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Where I was going with the Sile thing as another benefit, which wouldn't have mattered to me a long time ago and didn't, is there's a lot of value in actually buying new
Mhm.
if you can afford it. But the affordability, like, especially if you're financing, it's like you just don't know what's in the background of a used machine.
Mhm.
Like I had my Haas inspected by Haas when I bought it, and it was like low hours. It was out of a prototype shop, like little old lady in Pasadena kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, if you're getting into a new machine, I think there's a lot of value, especially if this is your first machine,
Yeah.
in buying something that will work.
Yeah.
And so if you can buy something new that will work, that is higher quality, that lets you grow into it, that's a pretty strong argument.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited. And it also feels like, it feels kind of fun,
Mhm.
like Fusion, where you're like,
Yeah.
it's the people I think that are going to be buying them. I think like a lot of the institutional shops probably aren't going to switch right away.
Yeah.
It's going to be all of us,
Right.
the
Like
one-man
Fusion.
shops,
Yeah.
five-man
Yeah.
shops that are going to
Yeah.
buy it.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Not sponsored by Sile or Titans of
Yeah.
CNC,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. It's
I'm super excited.
I like all this is coming from the fact that that machine kicks ass.
Yeah.
It's like it's been perfect. And
Yeah.
it's like it's doing things that it should not do at that price point and at that size. It should not be able to do what I'm doing with it.
Yeah.
And it does. It's like it's just Dalton and I almost like every other week we're like, dude, that thing is awesome. Like the
And they're
feeling of
pretty. Like, dude, we're designers. I can't like take product and not look at the aesthetic components of it.
Mhm,
They're really pretty.
mhm,
I'm using it as I think I'm kind of like using it as a carrot. So what I've told myself is like right now I do not need a new CNC machine. Okay. But if I can bring on a couple of products, it will make having a new machine much more necessary, but also much more viable.
mhm.
And it's kind of a way I'm like incentivizing myself to really push those products to be
Yeah.
like, all right, cool, you get this done and you can get a
Yeah.
shiny new
Yeah.
machine
Mhm.
from Style. It's pretty
Yeah.
sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that was that was
Yeah.
the Style hour.
Yeah. Ended up soaking up some time, but yeah, it's just a, you know, customer review. If you've
Dude,
been
that's a
looking at
major
machines.
no, I mean this from the beginning, like us doing these pod episodes, really rolled off the tongue well. One of the things we like to do is watch the market and watch the industry.
Mhm,
This truly feels like something coming into the new year that is revolutionary.
mhm.
It doesn't feel like a little shift. It feels like something that is big enough to disrupt. So, I mean,
Mm, yeah.
obviously, they're like Titans of CNC and Sile have no real foothold in the knife industry, but they are in industry. And it's like
Yeah.
the trickle down effects of that into our industry, I think are vast.
Yeah.
Coupled with the fact that currently the amount of knife makers who are utilizing CNC heavily is growing.
Mhm.
And in that group, the amount that are doing like fully CNC produced pieces in small shops, I feel like has really started to
Well,
ramp up.
the other thing that's happened in that span also is Haas has their lead time has gotten a lot longer,
Right.
which is what it is. But the result is that the after or the used prices on those machines has
Yeah.
been higher than ever, which
Yeah.
is a good selling
That's
point. Like
great.
I'll
Yeah.
credit, yeah, absolutely great. But
It's like buying a Tacoma.
but
I mean, that's
it used to be it's like okay, you got something weird like a Sile or a Tormach or whatever, but you could spend that money and buy a used Haas.
yeah.
But now you can't do that anymore
Right.
unless it's like really old. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So it's like that the used Haas argument is getting harder to do because it's
Yeah.
like you'll buy a used VF2 that's like a 2017 and it'll be like 70 grand. It's like what the heck? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So
Exciting. It's very exciting.
yeah.
What else? What
You
else
can
do we
probably
got
hear
to
my
touch
kids
on?
running around doing stuff out there.
I know. That's a lot of
Yeah.
times if you guys hear
Yeah.
us like fully blank out,
Yeah.
it's because like there's tiny feet
Yeah.
or like something else is going on behind us.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting like when we start recording these in video.
Yeah.
Because like
I know.
people will be like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Someone's slowly walking into the room, like
Yep.
handing you something.
Yep. Yep.
Dude.
Good stuff.
Okay. That was a fun one. I feel like
Mhm.
my brain is kind of
Yeah.
toasted.
Yeah. Feels good to me.
Feels good. We'll call it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate the Patreon support. Big time. Appreciate the new listeners. Yeah. Love you guys. Keep coming.
We had a major bump in listener engagement and we can't figure out why. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
There was
Maybe
an episode that just like hit super
we stumbled
hard.
into some Spotify like boost pad.
Yeah.
I don't know
Algorithm.
what,
So if you're like a new addition,
Yeah.
however you came to this show, thank you very much.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys.
Keep the questions coming.
Yep.
See you around.
Peace.